All right, well, welcome. This is a highlight because a big part of our culture for 30 years has been education on trying to equip people so that we can take our everyday life and have strategies so that we can make it extraordinary. And so it's been a while. It's been a long time, actually, since we've done that. And so I'm excited to be able to get back into it. And as I was planning for this and started to put together, information, I've got hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of PowerPoint presentations and all kinds of stuff to present healthcare classes. And this one has taken on a different flavor. And it's not by accident. I've had people speaking over us for the past couple of years that there's going to be change that takes place and that God is actually going to download blueprints for us in moving forward into this new season. And so what we've got is really kind of taken things into a whole new area. And so instead of it being, coming here and listening to me lecture and trying to take some good notes and figure out what you're going to take home and do, we're going to take and actually put together a healing school where we come together, and this becomes something that is actually going to be more of a conversation than a lecture, a dialogue, as opposed to just coming and trying to get something to take home and an action step to do. But before I jump into it, I really wanted to take and get this thing to shift from, what are the 5 essentials to being really healthy that we've talked about for years and years and years, to how do we take and steward our life so that we can get not only natural healing and the highest level of expression with our natural health, but supernatural as well, because we've got that available to us. And so we're going to start asking questions about how do we get that? How do we make that happen? And we want to take and apply it so that it's not just our physical health and well-being, but it's our mental, our emotional, our social, our financial, our spiritual. It affects all aspects of our health and our life. So get ready. This is going to be good. And I'm super excited about the direction it's going. I do have to start with a disclaimer that over the course of the last couple of years, my give a darn about trying to be politically correct and saying stuff without offending people has completely gone out the window. Not that I've ever been motivated by that to a huge degree, but this isn't going to be something where I'm going to basically mince words and try to be politically correct or to not offend. But we're going to be really straightforward and go after truth. Because I don't think there's ever been a time in our lifetime where we need to rediscover what truth is than now. And that doesn't come by just kind of taking a cautious step toward it. We need to actively pursue it. And so I'm not going to intentionally offend anybody. You're not going to be able to offend me because I'm choosing not to be offended by anybody in my life right now. But I want it to be something where we can agree that, we are coming together to really figure out what truth is. Because there is truth. And that's not a popular thing to agree with. Charlie Kirk, I don't know if you guys know who he is. He was in Boulder last night. And he's a very conservative 28-year-old that goes to universities and really addresses wokeism. And he said, it's harder right now to be a conservative in our culture than it is to be a homosexual. And there's truth to that, because if you're speaking any kind of truth for whatever you believe, it's going to be taken as potentially being intolerant or even hateful. So with that is that, my heart doesn't want to cause anybody to feel hated or intolerated. I want everybody to feel love, but I think that the best way that I can show that is by speaking boldly in truth and not trying to sugarcoat things so that I don't offend somebody if they're in a dark place. So we're going to be talking about this as we go. So we're really going to call this a healing school. And I started looking up definitions. We're going to be getting a lot into definitions because this isn't something where I want you guys to know what to think. We're going to be having conversations about how do we learn to think again. So if we take a look at a school, organization provides instruction, institution for teaching to children. That's in small letters because I'm not seeing you guys as children. But here's what we are. We're a group of scholars and teachers pursuing knowledge together. And so again, this is a conversation. I've purposely invited people here to bring their 2 cents worth, to bring their wisdom, their intuition, their insight. And every single one of us has something that we can bring to this. And we're going to take and explore what's inside of us that we didn't even know was there, so that we can take and start sharing things with other people as well. There's a word that is popular right now in Christian culture called ecclesia. And this is a Greek word that kind of was the original word that talked about the church gathering back in the early church. And so if we take a look at it, it says it's a gathering of citizens called out from their homes into some public place, an assembly. So if you can imagine ancient Athens, and you get all these philosophers that they come together and they have this forum, and they're basically just thinking about what they're thinking about. And they're discussing it, and they're going, what is the meaning of life? What is it all about? And they're asking really, really good questions. As a result of that, they're getting some really good answers. It goes on to say it's an assembly of people convened at the public place of council for the purpose of deliberating. So that's what we're going to be doing over the course of the next months. And this is open-ended. I don't have an end to this. It's going to continue to increase and grow. But we're here to deliberate. So this isn't me giving a monologue. This is a dialogue that's taken place. So I'm going to be giving you opportunities to engage and have conversation. And as I was looking at kind of these gathering things, this is something that it's not unique to Athens and then was left. It's not something that we're trying to start right now that's never been done before in recent history. There's actually a group of guys, and I don't know all of these people, but these guys came together back in 1929 in Oxford, England, and they started a group called the Inklings. Is anybody familiar with the Inklings? So I'll give you a little bit actually I'll let you watch a little video, then we'll talk about the Inklings and what happened with them.
When people think about the Inklings, they think about these geniuses getting together, 19 men for 17 years in this very large and elaborate and influential group. But what people seem to miss is at the heart of it, the core of it, the spark that starts it all is so very small. So Lewis and Tolkien had the habit of getting together regularly for lunch. And at one of those lunches in 1929, Tolkien made a brave decision. I have to imagine he was terrified, but he decided to share a poem that he had been working on. The story was the tale of Beren and Luthien. It's a poem that's at the heart of Tolkien's invented mythology. And he decided at that lunch, rather than to focus just on conversation, to offer to Lewis the opportunity to read a draft in progress, a rough draft of something he'd been working on. Lewis took that poem home, read it eagerly, and sent a quick note to Tolkien thanking him for the story and explaining to him how much he enjoyed it. It was that simple, brave act of exchanging poems, of sharing some rough draft, a work in progress, that began this whole process of exchanging work, reading stories. The group grew from there organically. It wasn't some big plan. It wasn't some giant mission statement. It just unfolded as two poets took risks and decided to share with one another what it was that they were working on.
So I thought this was brilliant. And so that group of people, it started off with J.R.R. Tolkien and C.S. Lewis. And so if anybody's ever done any reading at all, you got the Lord of the Rings trilogy, you got the Chronicles of Narnia, and all kinds of just really profound literature that came from these guys. And kind of a little bit more history on their story is that they were two intellectuals that came together, and they would meet in a pub and they would have some beers. So that's something that we may explore doing at some point down the road. And they would just have conversation. But then there was this vulnerability. And Tolkien said, I've got these verses I put together, 4,000 verses in this poetry that he put together. So he had this thing burning in his heart for a long time, but he'd kind of held it inside. And he decided to be vulnerable and share it. And so C.S. Lewis takes it as kind of this token of trust. Holy cow, this guy has just bared his soul with me, the stuff that's inside of him, and he's sharing it with me. He took it home and he read it that night. And he responded, thank you for sharing. And he responded with some critique. But the critique came from his heart in such a way that it actually improved Tolkien's writing. And as a result, I don't know that if anybody's sold more books than he has. And so we take a look at this as an organic group. It grew. And so even with where we are here tonight is that stirred up something in my heart, is that I can see a coming together, a deliberation, a coming together and letting what's in our hearts that's been percolating for a long time that we may not have any really outlet designed for can start coming out. Because, this isn't about us just not having symptoms and not about just, having energy and not having disease. This is about us expressing who we're created to be and letting what's in our heart come out, because we're all here right now in this time in history to make a difference. And so this thing is morphing into something that's way bigger than a workshop. This is going to be an ongoing conversation. So you guys are kind of the founding members of that, and I'm excited to have that with you. But get ready, because this is going to be an interactive thing. And so we're going to start off by asking a bunch of questions. If you've paid attention to any of the videos and the emails I send out, what if has been a common theme that I've hit on several times. And so I put together a list of what if questions, and I want you guys to write down some that you have as well, because we're going to be exploring these. I'm convinced that if we ask good questions, we'll find good answers. That if we don't ask questions, I love Marie because she comes in here with questions all the time. And so she's the smartest person I know now because she asks questions, right? And so we're not going to get the solution if we don't ask for it. So here's some of my what ifs. What if we've been lied to? We're going to jump into this one. This is going to be a good place for us to start. What if we've been lied to? What if we've been intentionally deceived? Anybody think there's been any of that that's going on? What if the loudest voice isn't the right voice? What if there is right and wrong? Because guess what? In our culture right now, we're told that there is not right and wrong. Right now, we're told that there's right and left. But I'm convinced that it doesn't matter which side of that you're on, there's still right and wrong. What if we can make a choice? We've been told for the last 2 years we can't make a choice. But what if we actually could? What if we're making it too difficult? And it could be whatever you want to put in there. The next step in our life, our career, our vocation, our garden, whatever. What if we're making it too difficult? What if what we're striving for is right here? It's in reach. What if it's not something that's so far out there that we just have to keep driving and working hard to get at? What if it's just right there? It's like an apple ready to be picked off of a tree. What if it's easier than we think that way? What if we're actually created to be healthy? That would violate everything that we've heard in the last 2 years. What if the answer is not in more research and development? Or we haven't even had research and development in the last 2 years, right? We've just been told that it's good, it's safe, it's effective, without the research and development. What if we're convinced our problem is actually part of the solution? What if the challenges that we go through are actually creating inside of us what we need to become so that we can go into the level that we need to go to? What if the fever that we have is actually the most powerful part of our healing response? What if what we see as the problem is part of the solution? It changes the way we look at things. I like this one. What if all humans lost their ability to think for themselves? It seems that way, doesn't it? You just still see that person driving by themselves in their car with their masks on, and you kind of go, that person has totally lost their ability to think for themselves. What if, during a time that questioning anything is ostracized, asking what if is the most important thing that we can do? So again, this is a time for us to start asking questions. I want you guys to be writing down your own. And throughout the week, throughout the next month, because we're going to be meeting on the second Wednesday every month, just what are questions that come up that you want to look into? Because we're going to ask a lot of questions. And we're going to go to a lot of different resources for answers. If you just look in my office, I've got bookcases full of health and nutrition and exercise and posture and alignment. I've got all kinds of books on health. Great resources. But the resource that we're probably going to end up going to the most, and you're going to get a good flavor of that tonight, is going to be the Bible. And because it's a timeless truth. In fact, if you guys are familiar with Joe Rogan is one of the most listened to guys right now, who's probably, he's probably not the guy that we first think of when we think of truth. But he recently had Jordan Peterson on his podcast. I want to share a video that they discuss with that.
And so it isn't that the Bible is true. It's that the Bible is the precondition for the manifestation of truth, which makes it way more true than just true. It's a whole different kind of true. And I think this is not only literally the case, factually, I think it can't be any other way. It's the only way we can solve the problem of perception.
So it's truer than truth. And it's the only way that we can solve the problem of perception. And this is coming from a guy that was a self-professed atheist. He says that as he started digging deeper and deeper, asking important questions, that now he realizes that the basis of all truth comes back to the Bible. And so we'll be digging into that a lot. In fact, we'll start with this. In Hosea 4:6, it says, "My people are destroyed for the lack of knowledge." And we can see that happening right now, right? I mean, we can see that our society right now is we're being destroyed. There is destruction that's taken place, genocidal destruction, on a scale that we've never seen before. And so the Hebrew word for here is dahath. And so if we take a look at this, it says knowledge, perception. What did Jordan Peterson just say? The only way that we can correct our altered perception is by coming back to this, anchoring it to a truth that doesn't change. Discernment, understanding, wisdom. So right now, we're destroyed because we don't have the right perception. We're destroyed because we don't have discernment. We don't know which voice to listen to. We don't have understanding of what's going on. And wisdom is actually the application of knowledge. So we're in no way lacking information. We've got more information available to us than ever before. But we're lacking wisdom in how to interpret and apply that. So we need to perceive things better. So we need a solid truth we can be anchored to. So let's go back to that first what if question I said. What if we've been lied to? Does anybody feel like they've ever been lied to? Yeah. So what would motivate somebody to lie to you? They're hiding something?
Control.
Yeah, control. I think that's a huge one, right? Yeah. So here's what I think is our biggest challenge. And I think this is also the same reason that J.R.R. Tolkien and C.S. Lewis books are such big, why every movie that we go see is always going to have the good versus evil. It's because there's evil that's out there. There is a thief that comes only to steal, kill, and destroy. And so we have to acknowledge that there is some entity out there that wants to deceive us for control. They want to deceive us so they can take from us our identity, all of our possessions, our ability to think for ourselves, to steal everything, to kill us, and to bring destruction. Now, if we take a look at this, we're talking Greek now. The Greek word for destroy is nidmu, and I thought this was interesting. Again, in the culture that we're in, it means to make dumb. We've been made pretty dumb over the last couple of years especially, but this has been going on for a long time. We've been conditioned to become dumb for a long time. Does anybody remember back in grade school when we were getting all of the panic and the scare tactics that were coming on about a nuclear invasion, an atomic bomb that was going to be dropped? So they were going to have these sirens go off. And what were we supposed to do in case of a nuclear bomb?
Hide under our
Yeah, put your head under your desk. Because that's going to solve that problem, right? But guess what? They put out something completely asinine like that as the solution, and it's experts telling us what to do in a time of fear. Because when we're in a place of fear, we lose the ability to think rationally, and we'll go, okay, I better put my head under the desk. And it doesn't make any sense at all. So guess what? We fast forward to where we were 2 years ago, and we got this virus, this tiny, tiny little particle that can go through a face mask 200 wide, right? You can get these guys going shoulder to shoulder through the openings of your face mask, and they say, oh, we're going to die if we get exposed to this virus, so wear your face masks. And we go, oh, okay, whatever. And we don't realize that it's to make us dumb, but it also is to silence us. And so that's one of the reasons that I got into so much trouble over the last 2 years, is because I saw inside my heart that this wasn't just about some kind of a medical precaution. This was about intentionally silencing us and dumbing us down and getting us to comply with ridiculous rules. Here's where this becomes really important, that there's a thief. Now imagine this, that we've got these neighborhood watch programs, right? So what does a good neighbor do? They pay attention. So if you saw a thief breaking into somebody's house and they were going in there to steal or to kill or to destroy, vandalize, what would a good citizen do? Yeah. Say this was happening in the middle of the night and your neighbor was asleep. What would be a good neighborly thing to do? Wake them up. Right? So guess what? Being politically correct and being afraid to offend somebody when you see them in a situation where their health, their life, their identity is being stolen, that's not the ideal, loving, neighborly thing to do. Sometimes we have to step up and use our voice, and not in a condemning way, but to remind people that, hey, there's a different truth. Or even ask the question, what if there's a better truth? And engage people in that. So here's the deal, though, is that we've been so consumed with the thief. And the thief the last 2 years has been COVID, right? It's COVID's fault for everything. But we know there's only one source for all the evil that's taken place. We can blame it on Fauci. We can blame it on Bill Gates. We can blame it on whoever we want to, the CDC, the FDA. I mean, there's lots of people that are actually being minions for the thief. But there's only one person that's behind all of that. And that's where our anger and really any kind of malice we have needs to go toward. We can still love people, but still confront them with the truth. Does that make sense? Yeah. So here's the good news with this is that, we know that we've been lied to, but if we start recognizing that and waking up to it, we can make a change. So right now, does anybody believe we haven't been lied to? Okay, you guys can all respond by using your voices too. That's allowed in here. Who has been lying to us? Media. So which media? Oh yeah, if you watched my last video where I was talking about soul food, it was like, it doesn't matter. We're not getting the whole truth from either side. It doesn't matter who, right? So we're being lied to by the media. Who else? Government. Doctors. Yeah. It comes in all different flavors, right? And we're getting it from Firehose because there's so many different sources it's coming at. So we're getting bombarded all the time. So what are we being lied to about?
Safe and what's dangerous.
Yeah, that's a huge one, right? Because we've been put into a place of fear, and the authorities, if they tell us what's safe and what's effective, or they tell us what might be potentially unsafe, then they influence the way that it goes. So why would they want to influence the way that we think?
Control.
Yeah.
So we'll do what they want us to do.
What's that? Money, control, all of that.
Well, and take people down.
Yeah.
To be minions.
Yeah. Really, to reduce us to slavery, right?
Reduce us.
Yeah.
And
So-
maybe they think that what they're saying is right.
Yeah. I would say some. Yeah, I'm not going to throw everybody out with that. I say there are some. And I say this in a way respectful to colleagues of mine that are actually in the medical field. Well, even chiropractors that have really embraced a medical mindset, really medicalizing everything that goes on. Anybody that has embraced a medicalized mindset, I think that they probably did it from a place of altruism. They did it because they wanted to love and serve and help people, but they heard the wrong voices. They heard lies and not truth, and so they do believe it. So I think that there is some of that. But I think that what we need to come down to is that there's been intentionality behind the lies. And that should piss us off. That should get us kind of riled where we're going, you know what, I'm not going to put up with it anymore. Because guess what? Lives are on the line. Stealing, killing, destroying. This isn't a small thing. This isn't benign. This is big. And so it should stir us up to where we go, you know what, we're going to put our foot down. We're not going to take it anymore. We're going to take whatever kind of action we can to start getting the truth out there.
What's that action?
Well, it could be a conversation. It could be just, yeah, sharing truth. Asking questions is a great one. And asking questions to somebody is a good way to kind of disarm them so that you're not coming at them like you're trying to condemn them for something. So if we can ask a question, say, hey, you know, I see that you're wearing a face mask. You know, why do you do that when we see that, you know, it's not mandated anymore? Get them to share why they do that. And say, you know, have you seen the research that shows that it works? Because I looked all around. You know, so you can just start engaging in that and not making them wrong, but getting them to maybe think about what's going on. But we all have a voice. Yeah, exactly. And it can just be with a small conversation. But it gives them liberty to do that. So what's been the effect? Man, the effect is so far reaching. We look right now and they're saying that the children who have been masked for the last 2 years, they don't know if their immune systems will ever recover.
And they can't speak.
Yeah, we're seeing the speech pathologists who are saying that they've never seen as many speech issues because they're not seeing people's mouths move. They're not learning how to move their mouths themselves. They're being afraid of people because they haven't seen faces and now they're seeing faces again. They're showing IQ scores have dropped. So it's been far-reaching. That's just our kids. But it's affecting all aspects of us. And I think the biggest part is our own identity.
Well, and think of the sedentary lifestyle that people have been living for 2 years.
Yeah.
They've done
Yeah.
studies that show being sedentary for 2 weeks or 2 months can, you know, it can take a very long time to
Yeah.
get, you
Yeah.
know, to get back to where your whole body is. So think of that for 2 years. People that are working at home, afraid to go out, afraid to move, afraid to do things.
And if you've lost 2 years of your life to being sedentary and living in fear, it's going to take even longer to get back to where you were before, right? So it's that whole thing is that it becomes a challenge to move back into. It's not been benign. It's not been small. This is one of the most devastating things that's happened to humanity. But for such a time as this, we're here. Because we're just a little group, but as we come together and we start asking the right questions, we'll find the right solutions. So your question is, what do we do? That's a brilliant question. Let's explore that one deeper. That's going to be one of our upcoming talks is, hey, you know what, in our arena, in our circle of influence, how can we make a difference?
We need to circulate more.
We do. And you know, I think that we even need to recognize is that there is a certain responsibility for it. You know, I've shared this numerous times with the workshops I used to do. When I was in high school, we were required to take a speech class. And I was so terrified of talking in front of anybody that I manipulated my high school counselor to make it to where I didn't have to take speech. I was able to take woodworking for extra credits beyond that so I could get out of taking speech classes. Because I was terrified of speaking in front of people. I hated that. I did not want to do that at all. But you know what? When the message becomes important enough, and you see that people's lives are on the line, something comes alive inside you to where you say, I don't care if it's going to be uncomfortable for me. I've got to step outside of that, and I've got to do what I need to do. You know, when I was before the judges and the lawyers in my hearing, I was totally outside of my wheelhouse. I couldn't get an attorney to represent me. I had a cool hippie guy from Boulder that came and stood with me and helped me through that thing. But you know what? Holy Spirit gave me strength through that. And it wasn't something I wanted to do. It was not something that was ever on my radar to even want to explore. But because of what was stirred inside my heart and conviction, it happens. So as we allow the truth to come inside of us, it's going to stir up convictions. And we're going to find solutions to how do we get the word out? How do we take and communicate that? Yeah, Mariah.
Well, my what if is, if you try to talk to somebody like my daughter,
Uh-huh.
is completely, you know, stuck with all what she's listening to on the news.
Yeah, so
You know, I even met somebody on the path around the pond that I go around, and I've met her before. And we were talking about Ukraine, and I was telling her what I had heard, which of course is the opposite of what she's heard. And she goes, "You must be a QAnon person," you know. And so I
Yeah.
kind of give up because I feel like they're so.
yeah,
You know, unless the news people go away or start talking, you know, truth,
yeah.
that's who they listen to.
It's hard, and I don't think there's a harder crowd to talk to than your own family.
What
Right.
I have really found is I listen. I write down everything they say. I go to the places that they're telling me to go to. CDC says this, I'll go to CDC, I'll pull the information out. I'll bring other information in, so that I'm using their trusted resources to show them,
Something's missing.
yeah, you
Yeah.
know, what you're getting, because what you're hearing from media will take, I'm really into this, so I'm sorry, but media will take a granule of truth. That's what I think of Satan,
Sure.
right? Let's take a granule of
He
truth.
did use scripture against Jesus, right?
Yeah, let's take a granule of truth and we're going to strip it away so that we can show the exact opposite of what this truth is.
Yeah.
Twist it.
So what we have to do is go back to where I'm sorry, goosebumps. We have to go back to where they're getting their information from and show them more. Show them more of it. There's more here than that granule that the media is screaming at the top of their lungs. You know, we're gonna show you more.
Yeah.
We're gonna clarify
Yes.
that.
Another human nature is to believe the story in our head because the brain's trying to please. It's very natural.
Yeah.
So it's good to just listen and see where they're at, where they're coming from, and even if I have to wait till the Spirit tells me what to say. When I
Yeah.
speak out of peace rather than any other feeling.
And I think that ultimately it comes down to is that with this is a big deal, but when we come from a place of desperation, we tend to have people back off and they kind of go, "Whoa, this is too intense." But if we can come from a place of relation, and so listening, it starts with listening and recognizing that we don't have to. We're not trying to again change the way they think. We're just trying to maybe ask some questions that will get them to start thinking. Right? So it could be that. I mean, it's brilliant to say, "Oh, the CDC." What's interesting is, I saw this from the CDC and this wasn't mentioned there. Why do you think they wouldn't mention this part of it? And get them to think instead of going, "The CDC left this out. Why did," and kind of our heart is, we got to lead with our heart and we can have impact with people that way. But I think it really comes back to finding out what their love language is, how you can communicate with them, because not everybody just wants the facts. Some people are just scared. And that if we can show up with confidence,
And that's
sometimes just a confident smile can make a difference.
Like you said, listening. People just want to be heard, no matter
Yeah.
where they're at.
Yeah.
That's very true. Just like we want to be heard, right? What our truth and our belief is, and we've done a lot of research, so we want to be heard by our loved ones. I've got adult kiddos that are on the same path. It sounds like yours are. But one of the things I think is important is that fear aspect. I'm scared for my kids. My at least 3. I have 7 children, and the adult 3. Well, no, the adult 4 all got the shot. I'm scared for them. But I can't come from that place of fear because we go back into our reptilian brain when we're afraid, and it's fight or flight. So I have to take a breath, breathe really deep, and ask them, what's going on? Why do you believe this? What do you do? How do you do? The whole thing about Trump being racist and doing all of this stuff, I'm going off. I'm sorry. But I'm like, share to me, where are you getting this from? Where's your information? Oh, they say it on the media. Okay, well, where's their information? I'm going to go look it up. You have a news article? Okay, I'm going to go look it up. And then I go and I look it up, and I find references to where he's talking about X, Y, and Z. And then I come back, with information from their trusted sources that shows maybe a little bit of the other side. But that fear, I have to keep realizing that's where they're coming from too, is fear.
Yeah.
They're afraid. That's what media is doing right now. Be afraid, be afraid, be afraid, be afraid, be afraid.
Sky is falling.
Yeah, keep your adrenaline glands going so crazy that you can't even think right, and then you're going to get sicker, and you're not going to feel as well, and everything else will come tumbling down
Yeah.
too.
And that,
In China, it's gonna really.
yeah, it really is where it comes from, because the researchers on how do they get people into cults, it starts with fear. And that if you can create fear and confusion in somebody and then come across as the authority, they'll follow you.
Yeah, the
And
confidence.
so with that is it's coming from a place of confidence. And with that too is that we're going to dig into this more and more and more, is that, you know what, I'm convinced that there is a power that is in each one of us that's even greater than the power that's in the vaccine to do damage.
Absolutely.
And so instead of embracing the fears, oh God, it's just kind of going, oh God, and trusting in that as well. And it starts with, what is our confidence? And that's why it's so important for us to make sure that what we're feeding our mind with is something that's going to be building up our strength. And again, the confidence in what we know and we believe, instead of listening to things that are going to allow confusion and fear and cause us to go right down into that Covidian cult like everybody else is in. So I think this is going to be a conversation we're going to continue to have, because this is something that affects every aspect of our life and our health, right? It's not just what's somebody's stance on COVID. It's what are their beliefs about everything. And that it's not that we've got all the answers, but we're asking better questions. And if we can engage them in those questions and take them to coffee and have a discussion, and not do it to where I'm trying to fix you, but I'm trying to listen to you and maybe even try to understand what you're saying, and then find avenues to ask a question that makes you go, I hadn't thought about it that way, and to go a little bit deeper. That's exactly what we're doing here. So what have we been lied to? We have. And so here's where this gets good. We talked about the first half of John 10:10. The thief comes only to steal, kill, and destroy. But the second half gets really good. And this is Jesus speaking. He goes, I have come that you may have life and have it to the full. And again, I'm going to be jumping into words, because I want to try to figure out, what does this mean? Because in the words that Jesus spoke, their language was much more colorful than English. They have some great words. So we're going to take a look at this perissos, which is the word for a full life. Get ready to get excited. Exceeding some number or measure or rank or need. This is exceptional, being beyond. Over and above, more than is necessary. Super added. Exceedingly, abundantly, supremely. Something further, more, much more than all, more plainly, superior, extraordinary, surpassing, uncommon, preeminence, superiority, advantage, more eminent, more remarkable, more excellent. That's a good word right there. This is what I want my life to be. Does anybody feel like they've arrived at that part of it yet?
Sometimes.
But, yeah,
At least be pointing that direction.
exactly.
If you fail trying, you're still moving
We're
forward.
pursuing that, because guess what? If you look at this, there's really two choices here. There's a thief, and if we listen to the thief, this is where we end up. Then there's Jesus, but he says that I came to do this. And so when I look at this, there's a lot of the even in the church community, they go, oh, it's that prosperity theology, right? That you just claim that, because it says that life to the full, that you can just speak and everything is going to come to you. No. But what it means is that there's a different way of thinking. That if we choose to listen to a voice of truth, there's good things that come with that. And that I'm going to be far more intentional to make sure I'm listening to the right voice and having this as the outcome, as opposed to getting sloppy with my thinking and allowing other voices to come in that are designed to still kill and destroy me.
A lot of those words describe the Lord.
Exactly, because guess whose image we're made in? Guess whose breath animates ourselves? Guess who Jesus came as an example of? He came in as an example of us, not as an example for us. Right? He came as God, but he left his supernatural in heaven when he came down to earth as a full human, as a baby. And he experienced everything that we did, the pain, the rejection, the suffering. He carried everything. But there was this moment that changed everything. He hadn't performed any miracles, nothing that was documented, until he gets baptized, comes up out of the water, and a voice that was heard from heaven said, "That's my beloved Son with whom I'm well pleased." And it said the Holy Spirit descended upon him like a dove. And then he went into the desert, and the devil came after him with scripture, saying, "Yeah, if you really are the Son of God." He went right after his identity. Guess what the enemy's been going after for us our whole lives, with more intentionality in the last 2 years. Why is he doing this? Because it gives up our identity. But when the Holy Spirit came upon Jesus, who was fully man, his life of miracles started to happen. So if he came as an example of us, that we're just humans, but if we can allow the personality of God that comes in the Holy Spirit to come upon our lives, then we can do, and his word says, and greater things than these will follow those who believe. That's what's motivating this whole workshop here, this whole school, is because what if, here's the most powerful what if question there is. What if the Bible is true? What if Jesus' words that he came to give us exceedingly, abundantly, supremely, something further, more, over and beyond. I love this. Super added. Not just a little bit sprinkled on top. This is super added. What if that's true?
What if we achieve it?
Yeah. So guess what? I don't want to do this half-heartedly. I want to jump into it. So just like J.R.R. Tolkien, he took a risk. And he goes, I'm going to make myself vulnerable here. I'm going to risk being called a failure or being told that what I have isn't value. I'm willing to risk showing up and praying for somebody, expecting a healing miracle, and maybe not seeing it yet. But knowing that if I continue to work on what I believe, that I'll see greater things than these happen. And so that's what I'm trying to draw you guys into, is that as we take this journey, is what if these truths are real? What if we can take, and where our shadow falls on people, that healing happens? I mean, the potential, the possibilities are endless. It's super exciting. This is where we're headed. This is what we're going after. But it comes down to this. What if we have a choice? Do you guys think we have a choice in this?
Yes.
Yeah, and it's one of those where we got the choice of the nidmu, which is to be dumb and silent, or we have the parasos, and we can really choose that. But it comes down to is this: what are we thinking? What are we allowing into our head? What are we taking and being intentional about on a day-to-day basis? Deuteronomy 30:19 says, "Today I have given you the choice." This is Moses talking to the Israelites, giving you the choice between life and death, between blessings and curses. Now I call on heaven and earth to witness the choice you make. Oh, that you would choose life, so that you and your descendants might live. He was saying, you guys can make your choice. You can go whatever direction you want. You can go the way of the world, or you can go the way of God. In fact, this is Deuteronomy 30:19. Does anybody have a Bible with them? If you got your Bible with you, look up, and if you don't, I can pull it up on my phone. Look up Deuteronomy 30:20. Yeah. So we've been given a choice. What is that choice? I think verse 20 gives us a little bit more detail on that.
Yeah, it says, actually it starts a little bit into 19, so I'll start there. It says, now choose life so that you and your children may live, and that you may love the Lord your God. Listen to his voice and hold fast to him. For the Lord is your life, and he will give you many years in the land he swore to give to your fathers, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob.
Okay. So it's following God's word, following God's truth, following God's ways. That's the choice we get to make. Or we can follow the ways of the world. And that's really been the choice from the beginning, right? In the garden, when the snake, the serpent, came up to Eve and said, did he really say that? She had the choice. Who was she going to believe? What God had spoken, or what the serpent had planted in her heart? And so we've been dealing with that same battle all along. And so it comes down to is the choice that we have is truth versus deception. And here's where this becomes a challenge. I heard somebody talking a few years ago. They said that with all of the technology, with all of the multimedia, with all of the internet and our smartphones and our devices that we have with us every day, there's between 4,000 and 10,000 voices coming at us every single day to get our attention and our affection. 4,000 to 10,000 voices a day coming at us. Guess what the majority of those voices are speaking? Deception. There's one still small voice that speaks truth, and that we have to take and make sure that our antennae are turned toward receiving that. And so that becomes, when we take a look at, what does it look like to live life to the full? It starts by making sure we're listening to the right things. And part of that is surrounding us with the right people that are asking the right questions.
I would say that voice is not small. That voice is very, very loud. We've just learned how to tune it out.
Absolutely. We get distracted. Yep.
So I think that voice is very loud.
We have to train ourselves to hear it.
Exactly.
Yeah. It says that the sheep know the shepherd's voice. And if we don't know the shepherd, we don't know the shepherd's voice. So there is just kind of learning to know that. So what if it really is that simple? Yeah. What would that change in what getting up tomorrow looks like?
Oh, just a side note to that. When something is thrown at me, I have the right to know if it's wrong or right, and I have responsibility.
Oh, now you're talking heresy. You have responsibility?
It's my responsibility.
No, wait.
Because it's that victim mentality.
Yeah,
If you
yeah.
want to step out of that, you got to take responsibility for yourself.
Absolutely.
And then you get the power back. But I was taught that I can pray about something and ask if something is wrong or right. And the still small voice will leave a feeling within me, let me know in my heart and mind if it's right or wrong. If it's wrong, I will still feel confused.
Yeah.
If it's right, I feel peaceful.
And it's taking, again, going back to that first video I showed with Jordan Peterson. And he talked about the Bible is the solution to our lack of perception. And so we're destroyed for a lack of knowledge, and the word in there is perception. We've got a lack of perception. Perception is to perceive, to see in your mind's eye, to know what's going on. So it really is taking and filtering it through what is true. And because here's the deal is, guess what? Our emotions can get sidetracked too. It's that can happen to us. And so if we take it through, what do we feel, especially if we're coming from a wounded heart? Anybody here not have a wounded heart? Yeah, so we come from that, and our emotions can sidetrack us as well. So we have to take, it says in Scripture, we have to take captive every thought into obedience in Christ Jesus. So does it pass the litmus test of being true to the Scripture? And again, that's where we can come together, because my emotions may be telling me something, but Danton, who knows me, can say, no, that's off. Here's what the truth is. And it's giving each other permission to be able to do that in this setting. Yeah.
Jesus is a great example. The way he spoke back to the adversary, he said, "It is written."
Yes.
Get lost.
There you go. What was his truth? Yep. Get lost. Yeah, don't be distorting the word. So again, I mentioned this at the beginning. We're wrapping things up right now, but what questions would you like to ask? And just start thinking about this. Start cultivating a mindset of asking good questions, and that it's okay to ask questions. None of us have all the answers, but we have a source to get the answers when we ask the right question. Where do we go from here? Who knows? I'm excited about the turnout we have here, but I'm also excited about the time that we live in and the importance of truth being spoken and the opportunity that affords for each one of us. And that as we take and, if you guys join us on this healing school journey, that where we go from here is a life to the full, seeing that expand and increase. seeing a greater understanding of what's going on. You know, I want to wrap up again, coming back to Jesus' words of the gospel that he spoke as he said, repent, for the kingdom of God is within reach. And so what if something is really easier than we think it is? But we have to understand again, what does that mean? The word repent. And here's where, again, who's been lying to us? Well, guess what? The King James translation of the word repent, the church leaders at the time used the word that actually means to make penitence, which means to grovel in the dirt and to rub ashes on yourself and to just feel like you're a worthless worm. That's what making penitence is. The Greek word that repent actually comes from is metanoia, which means to have a better thought, to replace the thought you're thinking with a higher thought, to think again. So what if the thoughts that we've been thinking have been stealing, killing, and destroying, and we can choose to embrace a higher thought and actually recognize that the kingdom is right here. And so those words that Jesus spoke, they're closer than we think. So as we take and we embark on this journey, I'm excited that, you know, we're not going to see, this isn't just going to be about getting head knowledge. Here's where I see this going. I see us laying hands on each other and seeing healing take place. I see deliverances happen. I see one of the words that was spoken over this place before we even moved here was when we spend time lingering in the upper room, there will be sudden alignments, sudden healings, sudden deliverances, sudden breakthroughs. That's what I see happening. And it's going to be, so here's where I'm also going to be leading you guys to is that, you know what? You guys are no longer patrons here. You're members of the club, and you have my permission, our permission, that if you see somebody that's hurting, or if you feel like Holy Spirit has given you a word for somebody that's here, and here's where we're going to kind of define what that looks like. Jesus said, I didn't come to condemn, but I came to save. And so if you feel like Holy Spirit has given you a word of encouragement for somebody, or to go and to just embrace somebody, or to lay hands and say, hey, you know what, can I pray for you? I'm giving you license to do that, because that's the community and the culture that I want to create in here, is that greater things than these are going to happen here. Sudden deliverances, sudden healing, sudden breakthrough, sudden alignments. And it's not because of me, it's because of us coming together and changing the way we believe, changing the way we think. Greater things than these will follow those that believe. We've got a long ways to go to get to where our beliefs are that way, but we're already on a great pace for it. So, good questions. Bring them when you come, and let's start practicing this stuff. Let's look for opportunities to practice. Yeah.
Can I say something about
Of course. Yeah.
I've recently been with grandchildren and stuff like that, and I found myself, I mean, they were talking about all the horror. I mean, they're in prison. When they go to school, they're in prison.
Yeah.
With the alarm screaming at them once a week. And then running under. And so I mean, they're telling me all this stuff, and my heart is just, I mean, I just feel bleeding inside. But what I said is, what if none of that is true? Bam! I immediately had Jax's attention.
Yeah.
Immediately had it. And I was thinking, and I said a very similar thing to Caden last night, and I think, who's also a child, one of the things that we can practice on is when our children come and give you a piece of nonsense of some kind, you know, what if that isn't true? Do you think that's true? Do you think really hiding under that desk is going to help you if a gunman comes in?
Yeah.
You know, and you know, get them to give you information. It is such a plus fact. You're giving a huge opportunity to children, which is what we're bringing up.
Yeah. And the young ones are going to be easier to do with that. So it's a great time to start.
He stopped and listened to me.
Stopped and listened. Here's where it becomes a challenge. So like Maria with or the older kids, right, that have been involved in it, there's a chemical concept called titration. And so you can have two clear glasses of two different liquids, and they're transparent. They both look just like water, but they're two different chemicals. And so you can take an eyedropper of one and drip it into the other. And you can drip, 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 drip. Nothing happens, just drip, drip, drip. And all of a sudden, with one more drop, this whole fluid turns red, changes colors, just like that. And then if you take and you get what was originally in that and you put another drop of that in, it goes clear again. So there's a certain concentration that is required to create a change. And so again, you take a look at there's 4,000 to 10,000 voices coming at us every single day. The longer we've been listening to them, the more concentrated that belief system has become. But guess what? If we drip, 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 and if we're patient, drip, drip, we don't know when that one drop might happen that changes everything. And so we really are in kind of a marathon and not a sprint. It's a relationship and it's a conversation and not a, trying to get an immediate conversion for what's going on.
And one of the things I taught my children is to always stand in your truth until a higher truth comes to you. Stand in your truth, stand firm. So when you're having like when I have conversations with my kids, I recognize immediately when they go to the, attacking me, this isn't about me. This is about them. So then I don't get emotional anymore. I can just be like, this is about them. How can I help them? I'm going to stand in my higher truth until, something else comes. And I'm always looking for the higher, I always feel like God and Jesus reveal their information to me personally, kind of like an onion. It's a layer at a time.
Mm-hmm.
I can only handle this much right now. I can only handle this much right now. And I agree with you. I think pretty soon it's going to be immediate.
Yeah, we're going to see a quick shift.
We get to that point that drip is going to, even turn us.
Yeah.
But if I can take the me out of the equation when it comes to my kids, it helps so much over. Don't be upset. Don't, and then they're going to talk to you more freely. They immediately come into the conversation in defensive mode. And if you're not defensive at all, they're like, what? What do I do with this? How do I handle this? How do I deal with this? That helps.
It makes a difference. And again, with that, just in following up with that is that, people will pick up if you're not standing for your higher truth. And then you lose credibility, right? That there is that if you say something and you do something different, your credibility is gone. And so we can't expect somebody to be influenced by what we say if they don't see us as credible. So there really is this, it's a word that we don't like to use, but it's personal responsibility, right? Actually, we're all supposed to be responsible for everything that our ancestors did, but not responsible for what we do ourselves, right? No, there's a better truth. It's taking responsibility for ourselves and being true and authentic.
I even tell the doctor, I said, you've done a lot of work, you went to school, I respect everything you've done, but you can't do everything for me.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So give me a diagnosis and then we'll talk about the prognosis.
There we
That's
go.
my decision.
Yep. Well, good. Any closing comments by anybody?
Let's go get them.
So again, where do we go from here? It's up to all of us, right? This is right now a blank book, and all you guys have pens in your hand, and you're helping to write this next chapter for us. And so I hope that you'll be here next month, and we're just going to keep this conversation going. Shoot emails with any kind of comments, questions, directions, insights you guys have, anything that comes along. You guys are the teachers. We're all the teachers. We're all the scholars in this thing, which means there's unlimited opportunity for learning for all of us. So it's good. Well, God bless you guys. Thanks for coming here. I'm so excited to be back to doing this kind of stuff again.
Yeah.